I
bet it is.
Yeah, one of the initial reasons for the use of...
See, now how we do this is all I'm going to do is listen. If it sounds good, it sounds good, okay?
Okay.
Hang on just a minute.
So how do you want me to say this is a tidbit about fluoridation?
Yeah, in fact, what you might do, and I'm editing all the stuff we're talking about now out.
Yeah.
Go to the front of the page and say this is information, the age of treason. In fact, you can read it from the back side of the book if you want.
Oh, I was going to do that.
In fact, do this. Read the back, not the back side of the book, but the edge of the book there. Just read that for now.
Okay.
Read it.
Well, this is a little bit about fluoridation from the book Your Health and Sanity in the Age of Treason.
Good. It's a very famous book. Okay, now go ahead and repeat that.
Okay.
Go ahead and repeat that again.
All right, okay, and then I'll just go to the sentence.
Yeah.
Is that fine?
Yeah, just take your time. I'm going to edit all this other stuff out. Okay, read the back of the book. This is by Dr. Clymer.
Okay.
And it's a book, and you read that
All
back
right.
part. Okay,
And
then read that other part. And we'll listen to that and see how that sounds. Okay, now the back part, read that one more time.
Okay. This is a book about your health and sanity in the age of treason by Dr. Clymer, and it's about fluoridation. It says one of the initial reasons for the use of sodium fluoride by the enemies of the mass was for the purpose of shattering the nervous system and the deterioration of the mind of the victims.
Okay, now hang on. Read it one more time. Just go a little bit slower and just a little more exact. The word sounded
Exact.
good, but just, I'm hearing it. See, you can't hear it as you're reading it.
I know.
But just
I have a
little
weird
more
voice
exact,
anyways.
It'll make the words a little bit clearer, and just read that second part, and I'll add the first part onto it when I edit. Okay, go ahead.
Do you want me to do the other
Yeah,
thing?
the other
Okay.
part, that's the first part. You're on good.
Okay. One of the initial reasons for the use of sodium fluoride by the enemies of the mass was for the purpose of shattering the nervous system and the deterioration of the mind of the victims.
Okay, now,
One more
see how
time.
you picked it up, now see how you started putting the books down, you kept reading. Now, what you want to do,
I know.
okay, just keep it, just read it and look at it at the same time
Okay.
and finish the whole thing as you're looking at the book.
One of the initial reasons for the use of sodium fluoride by the enemies of the mass was for the purpose of shattering the nervous system and the deterioration of the mind of the victims.
Perfect. That's it. That was hard. Thanks, Aubrey.
Was that too bad?
Yeah, that was good. Hey, that was take 4 good. See how you go in. Yep. That was, Aubrey, come back here a minute now if you want.
I think that's the same TV I got. That went out in the garage? Yep. Same one?
Christine's.
Yeah.
And do you want to touch anything on the abortion issue?
If you want to.
All right.
Um,
Why is that so bright, Frank?
I just didn't hear the finish here. Hang on a minute. Just keep talking.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are blasting off. We are just fixing to start a show, Frank. Are we ready to start the show, Frank?
Hang on.
we can practice interviewing you.
You want to interview me?
About what? What do you want? What should we interview about? How about hypnosis? Have you ever done it before?
Yes.
Have you ever hypnotized anyone before?
Yes.
Who were they?
It was my ex.
Ex-girlfriend.
Yeah. Yes.
Check your mic there. For some reason I might get
Well, because I'm on 4, that's why.
You're on 4.
Yeah.
And that's the only person you hypnotized.
Yeah.
And why did you choose her?
It's with the intent of hypnosis and taking her under to experience past life stuff.
What about healing? Does it help heal, like say childhood trauma or?
They have several different types of hypnosis. They have timeline hypnosis. They have which they take you back in a straight line through time.
Like Count K-Pax? I watched that last night.
Kind of through your life, and what they do is they set timelines.
Days.
Yeah, timelines in a time structure to find out when you actually picked up a habit, or when you picked up. I went under hypnosis to deal
stop
with.
smoking.
No.
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 Good guess.
That would be the most obvious, huh? I went under hypnosis to find some personal things out, although I never found them out.
Oh yeah, because you couldn't go there yet. You're not ready.
No, the guy actually got scared and brought me out.
Oh.
Oh, it was actually awesome.
That's the only thing I'd be scared of, is I'm scared of opening doors.
Are you?
Yeah, that's my thing. I have this fear. Like, I have to tell you a secret. I did shrooms, like, a couple months ago.
Did what?
Yeah.
You're filming
So what? Who cares?
this. What'd you do?
I ate something.
Oh, you ate something?
Yes. You know what those are?
What?
Shut the fire, Dave.
Why? That's evil.
1, 3, 4, 2, 5.
I won't. I don't tell very many people, but I figured I could say something to you. You wouldn't be
So
like,
how was that?
I
You do
freaked.
not want to eat. Well, hey, can I tell you something?
I don't like them.
Did you just think yourself, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, Dave.
That was Dave. This is. We're gonna have fun, man. You know what, Aubrey? I want you sitting in my chair
Why?
because you'd be really good at it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I want you to start doing interviews
I don't mind it.
on a metaphysical
This
level.
is here, this is here.
On metaphysics, even past the abortion thing. Although the abortion thing really needs you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel it's something I need to do.
Oh yeah. That feeds your soul, huh?
Yeah,
Now, you
that
don't have
and
to do a thing
just
here
feels like,
until they say, okay, I wanna go to
like I'm
camera
giving,
one, that's
I don't know,
camera,
it's
you're
like
camera two.
if I died tomorrow, at least I could say I helped, try to help do something. If I, met God and he's like, well, what did you do about these babies that are killed every day,
Here's your fine tune.
We're known by our fruits, huh?
Yeah, so that's kind of what I want to do it for.
Wouldn't it be awesome to hear that you saved one kid?
Yeah, just one,
Shot for me.
It's just like that David video. Did you ever watch that?
No, I stay away from those. You know, the thing is I will get provoked too much. I'll get mad and my anger will show.
This is in out.
I'm passionate.
Yeah, well, I have to, when I watch them, it makes me, the drive, it fuels it.
But it doesn't work a lot. But
Makes
this
me-
is what
yeah,
we're
It
doing
would
now.
make me. It would make the anger come out.
It is, it makes me angry too, but it
I
definitely,
interviewed a guy, Solomon, and I decided this one girl I was interviewing actually got off on me. You know what I mean by that, right?
Yeah.
So, and because I did not want to start any shit on camera, and I told myself after I watched that it wasn't going to happen again. So I tactfully went at him. And I said, no, you can't tell me that it's okay that 7,000 babies a day die in this country. And I went through this whole explanation of this whole thing about it. And I looked at my face when I was saying it, I was pissed. And it really showed. Yeah, it showed in my eyes, actually. And so, that's okay. Just, I forgot to clip my nose hairs. Don't get too close. You got to tell me about that experience sometime. But I'm telling you, I want to. When you talk like that and we're filming, you have to put that up to your. Yeah, right there. And if you cock it up there just right, sometimes you have to bungee cord it around your head.
Can you hear me?
That is the weirdest communication back and forth. You'll find out. Switch the camera. Switch the goddamn camera.
Well, I can hear you, Frank, but apparently you can.
When somebody walks in the studio and Frank gets to talking to him when we're in the middle of a show.
yeah, I can see he gets going on stuff and doesn't watch what he's doing.
I want to tell you something though.
Button, where's this button?
You can go
You
anywhere.
can tell me where the button is?
Yeah.
Without doing that, I know that.
And I'm going.
Oh, I know, my sister is all into that stuff.
Button on the receiver.
And there's more in it than that. It's awesome stuff. We're
All
rolling. We're going to talk about the Christines, right? Christines, Brian and Ruth. And when did they actually come and get you guys? In August, September, something like that? When
Come
was
and
that?
get us.
Well, when did they paint themselves and attack all the women and children?
Attack all the women and children. It was August 5th, wasn't it? Yeah. This isn't rolling.
Yes, it is.
I mean, you're not like interviewing yet. You're
No,
just,
not yet.
he's just kind of getting
It
more
was
information.
August 5th, which is the day of Sirius on the calendar.
Okay.
Oddly enough, the day of Egypt.
Okay.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
Welcome to Metaphysical Concepts tonight. We thank you for being with us for another show. Tonight we have Aubrey Jessup with us, and we're going to talk about what many of you may have been reading about in the papers, the Christines, Brian and Ruth Christine, that were accused of kidnapping their children in Oregon on August 5th of last year. And we have some first-hand experience with Aubrey in the studio tonight about what happened, and we might be able to get an update on what's happening right now with the trial. And this is a very controversial issue insofar as the state came and took the Christine's kids from them and alleged that they had done some things with their children or neglected their children in some way. And from what we've found out, that hasn't been the case. So let's get to Aubrey and ask Aubrey some questions. When they came to where you were staying, how did from what I understand, they had paratroopers or some kind of...
Well, let's start out with the whole story. My dad was friends with someone that was involved, and he was a friend of my dad's, and he just was friends with my dad and decided to bring the kids up to the house with Ruth. Brian had been driving back to get his other daughter and was picked up for speeding. So he was already, caught. So he was pretty much out of the picture when the family arrived at our place. And we were just introduced to the whole family. They seemed like really sweet people.
Did the children look healthy?
Yeah, they looked healthy, but they also had been with the state for a year, so they were pretty chunky, pretty healthy. And
go ahead. This is us.
And the little girls were perfectly healthy. They seemed happy that their mom was with them. They changed the names of the little girls, and Ruth's name was changed too, so that they could protect us from being incriminated in any sort of way, I guess. My dad went into town that night with his friend and picked up my husband, and during that time we sat down and were talking with Ruth, asking her questions like, where's your husband, kind of digging, and she wouldn't give us any information. She was really, you really cut off, and we kind of, that's a little strange.
Yeah,
but
I imagine that would be curious too.
Yeah, she just, my husband's gone, that's the end of it. And well, she read stories with the kids. We had watermelon and fish. I can just remember the whole thing pretty much clear. The
Turned
kids,
out to be a dynamic evening, didn't it?
yeah, it was interesting because we kind of wondered where she was coming from. We didn't know anything about her, and she was very quiet and withdrawn. And I guess through all the traumatic experiences, I would be that way too. But
I've been at your dad's place. Everybody's really hospitable and friendly, and just curious about people.
yeah, she was really nervous, and she spilled watermelon all over the floor. She was just really, uptight and nervous, and we kind of just blew it off, like, something must be going on, but we didn't want to pressure her into telling us anything. So the next morning, my dad went into town in his car with his friend, and they went to his place to, I guess, get some more diapers and things like that for Ruth and her kids. And we were all playing out in the yard. My husband's sister was there and her children. So the whole scene was, the kids were all out in the yard. There had to be at least 16, 18 kids out in the yard, just little kids everywhere. And the women,
And there's always kids running around your dad's place.
My dad has, 10 kids at home. I have my own 2, and my sister-in-law had her 3. So, and then there was the Christine girls, which is another 3. So that's like 16 kids out in the yard. And my husband had taken some of the kids down to a pond to go fishing and stuff. And
what happened when they went? Did they get pulled over?
Yeah, they got stopped down the road. They made all the kids put their hands up in the air.
And who is this that came in on them? They were
Troopers. No, these ones didn't. These were just, highway patrolmen, just the kind of police officers. And they told them.
Pulled your husband over.
Yeah, pulled him over, and they had pulled out their guns. They had guns and everything. Had them put their hands in the air, even the little children.
So it was your husband and a bunch of kids?
Yes, and all the ones back at the house were just Christy, my stepmother, me, my sister-in-law.
And those are the only grown-ups there?
There was 4 women there.
4 women.
And there was probably like 10 kids left in the yard after my husband had gone down the road.
Did they know that was the element that they were coming in on?
Yeah, they had found out when they had detained my dad and his friend at my dad's friend's home. They had detained him, and my dad said, "There's only women and children up there. You're going in just to get this, the woman and the 3 kids, and that's all. There's no reason to force your way in there, scare people, anything like that. So just please go in there in a calm fashion." Well, when
They came in pretty aggressive, I take it.
well, I think they had been scoping the area out above the home. So they had already seen the layout. They saw that there was just kids and women. They could see that there was no men, carrying guns and, doing
So
anything
they
like
had
that.
watched the place?
Yeah, they had watched it for a little while, at least a good half an hour.
Wow.
So when they had detained my husband, they kept him down there for a good while. Well, when they came onto the yard, I was up at my house, but a police officer, my sister-in-law came up and said, "There's a police officer that wants to talk to you. Come down to the house." I came down there, and there's just kids screaming. There's cops running around.
No.
They're trying to figure out who the Christine girls are and who isn't. And
from what I understand, they were going to take some kids that weren't even the Christine.
yeah, they just had pictures of the Christine, so they were kind of looking at them, deciding which one was who and trying to figure it out. And Ruth would not tell them who her kids were because she did not want them taking them.
Sure.
Well, when I came on the scene, the oldest daughter, Bethany, had her feet in the water in the creek that ran right by our house.
Right.
And when I came down, they were hiding behind the excursion. My dad's friend's excursion was sitting there, and so they were hiding behind it, screaming because the cop was trying to get them out. And they did not want to go with the cop. Well, Bethany just walked over the creek, put her feet
Well, what did these
in.
police, excuse me,
Oh.
what did these police look like? Did they have paint on their
Well,
faces?
the one that was trying to get the kids away from the van, the SUV, were not painted. But the one that was standing by the tree like an authoritative figure had his whole face mask painted on his face, the whole, camo.
Combat camo.
Yeah,
huh?
like train op day.
Wow.
The other 2, one had a leaf jacket on and one had some other camo on. There was one that just had his face painted. The rest of them were just in camo. And there was a couple FBI agents. And together, I'd have to say there was about 10 to 15 officers there to take one pregnant woman and 3 children, which I think is a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
So how long were they there?
well, the police officer what I was just going to finish is that the little girl had gone down into the creek, Bethany, the oldest, and stuck her feet in the creek, and she was just sitting there, and the officer was standing there, "Come on, you're coming with me." And I came down, I said, "Well, what's going on here? What we had no idea who they were, what was going on." And he just said, well, these kids have been violently kidnapped. And this little girl, about 7 years old, just looked up at him and said, "We have not been violently kidnapped." And for a 7-year-old to make that assumption knows darn well that they hadn't been kidnapped. There hadn't been any violence. They hadn't been in any kind of harm's way, or else she would have just not said that, I don't think.
Right.
Well, they took them off, and the girls were screaming for their mom. All of us women were just hugging our children, bawling. It was so
What
horrific.
a fiasco, huh?
Yeah, it was something like out of just a nightmare, especially for a mother. When you see your children just taken away from you, and you have no.
I imagine you flash back on Waco, huh?
Yeah, well, that's what I first thought. I mean, here they handcuffed this mom, and she's pregnant. She's like 8 months. She's not going to be running anywhere. They weren't really gentle about it. They just seemed so just unhuman. It was, that's how I felt.
Very insensitive.
Yeah.
So do you have any idea where the trial with the Christines is at right now?
Well, just through newspapers and, friends and stuff, we've kind of tried to keep up on it, and it seems that the media has kind of taken
As a pro-prosecutor?
yeah, they kind of want, the Christines deserve what they get, they think. They kind of have put them in a
It would be interesting to find out the details of the whole thing from start to finish.
yeah.
I think we're going to try to do that.
Well, I think I've tried to study as much as I could on it, because I was,
Sure.
after the whole arresting and everything, I visited Ruth almost every single week. Every time she had her visitation, I would go visit her. Well, she had written me a letter and asked me to adopt her baby, the one she was pregnant with at that time. And she said, I don't have anybody. I don't want my child to be lost. I don't know where it's going to go. Can you please adopt it? And for me, that was just like, what do you say to somebody that asks you to take their baby? It's just, I didn't even barely know her.
Right.
It was really a very big test. So I said, of course, what if I was ever in that situation and somebody asked, you know, I had to ask somebody for that.
So where's that at right now? Is she
Well,
still the same heart?
She ended up having her baby, and I was there. I wasn't there at the birth, but I was, you know, the grandmother actually got the baby, was able to adopt the baby. She stepped in and took the
right.
baby. And the grandmother actually came over. I cooked her dinner. I got to hold the baby and everything. It was pretty neat. But the whole labor and birth for the Ruth was even worse than even being arrested. She was handcuffed and shackled to the bed till 8 centimeters. They would not. The nurses were begging the police officers that were, you know, watching over her, just begging them to unhandcuff her.
And they didn't?
No. It was done at community hospital, and they just slapped on the cuffs and let her deliver like a cow, you know, just as bad as unhuman as that. Yeah, it's pretty sad. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know what to ask now.
I know.
So, and she had the baby?
She had the baby. She was able to hold it and be with it for about 6.5 hours, 7 hours.
And they just
They
took
just
the
took it
baby,
away
gave
to
it
a
to her
foster.
mother?
No, foster home it was foster home for a month and a half.
And she went back to jail?
She went back to jail. They barely even let her recuperate. They took her back to Oregon, and she actually got out on bail a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah, and then she's been doing interviews and stuff.
Well, so what I would like to do is have another interview about this, maybe after the trial sometime, and I would like to lay the facts out for our audience.
Yeah.
The facts as we find them,
Yeah.
not as maybe not as they've
Yeah.
read about in the papers about the whole case, and just to keep people informed on what's happening out there, what our government's doing, and what the leaders of our government are letting everybody do.
Well, some of the tidbit facts that I've picked up from the whole thing is what I've read and what I've asked and what I've seen is that they were living in Grants Pass and living in their, you know, converted bus motorhome.
Right.
And her husband did things off the internet. He sold, you know, computer game things off the internet, software. And they just were traveling around the country and enjoying themselves. And somebody called in. Anonymous caller.
Well, anonymous caller, is an anonymous caller, do you know if there's actually a recording?
No.
So there isn't.
No.
So we don't even know that there was a caller.
No, you can never face your accusers when it comes to stuff like that. A neighbor could say, you know what, I saw your kid and it had a bruise on its head, and I think you beat your child. And they take your kids away, and you never can face your accuser of who had this happen to you.
It seems to me that they would have to have some, whether they played in court or not, they still have to have some kind of evidence that there was a phone call.
Well, what they do is they have an anonymous tip. The social workers have to follow up the anonymous tip. Well, when they went over there, they saw a cut on the daughter's head, and that was enough right there. They took the kids back in the back. They interrogated them. Then they interrogated the father, and the little girl said, well, Dad supposedly pushed me down the stairs. I got this, you know, owie because I peed my bed or whatever. And that was enough right there. They took him away for malnourishment because they also had the flu when they had taken him. Now, that's a big thing, because when my kids had the flu, they look dehydrated too. They look, you know, how do you look when you have the flu? You look pretty sick. So that was one of the other things, that they had the flu, and I imagine they didn't look too well anyways.
Right.
So they took the kids, and the social workers, they took the kids away, and they put Brian in jail that night. They took him away.
For what, child abuse?
Yeah. It was called, it's like third count of assault of some kind.
Domestic?
Some kind of assault.
Okay.
It was, and he was in jail for a night, and Ruth was just at the motorhome. Her kids are gone, her husband's gone, she doesn't know what to do. Well, they took the girls, and they gave them painful examinations. They took pictures of their private areas, graphic pictures that the judge threw out because they were borderline porn, child porn.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how bad it got.
So we're sitting over here in Montana, not really catching the facts of what's, not really catching the facts about what's really going on over there.
Yeah.
And what we have is the watchdogs we have, of course, are the prosecutors in the case, the judge in the case, and we're hoping the media will be able to somehow portray the truth out of this. And either way, whatever they portray about it, we're gonna get the facts together, and we'll have the same interview after the trial's over, or whenever we get the facts together on it.
Yeah.
And can pass them on to our viewers. You're very active in several things.
You know, this funny story is about this whole abortion stuff too. Is in how I met Marilyn is through this Christine thing.
Really?
Yeah. And Rich Angel, and there was only 5 of us that ever showed up to visit Ruth. Well, Marilyn just heard about it through the news and just showed up wanting to.
That's Marilyn.
That's Marilyn.
Now Marilyn is the lady
that does Voices for the Unborn.
The lady that's on our show that does Voices for the Unborn with you.
Yep.
And Rich Angel's been on the show a couple times.
Yeah.
And
he's like a humanitarian.
Yes.
He just goes out and just does so much for lots of people. He ran their whole website for months.
What website?
Childtheft.com. Governmentchildtheft.com is their website, Christine's. They, when they first had their children taken away, they tried for a year to jump through all the social workers' hoops, you know,
Right.
psych evaluation, nutrition classes, all kinds of things. And finally, when their parental rights were going to be taken away, that's when they felt forced into a corner, and like, you know, any mother or father would do in, you know, any scenario. You know, a grizzly bear, if you take its baby away, is going to attack you. You know,
Sure.
Why should it be any different for a human mother to be that way? And so they took their kids back by force. They're, you know, that's what almost any parents that love their children would do.
So getting back, let's talk about the abortion issue. You're very active in the abortion issue with Metaphysical Concepts, Voices for the Unborn, and actually out there in the streets.
Yeah. Got a lot of slack for that.
Yeah, what I would like to hear, you had a problem, or you had some response. Oh, it was an editorial, that's right.
There's 2 actually. There's one today that I haven't even read. Marilyn called me up and said, yeah, they're in the paper again about, you know, standing out there with the gory pictures. The editorial of the other day was kind of, because some lady was upset. There was a kid parade, and I agree that, you know, the kids, it's hard for kids to see that, but most kids are very, I mean, if we can show what they see on TV, that violence, and they can't see a baby that's been murdered, then there's something wrong with us.
Well, especially when it happens 7,000
times a day. Yeah.
1.3, 1.4 million times a year, and
Yeah.
that's just in this country.
And the little kids should look at those pictures and be grateful that wasn't them, because nowadays, 3 out of 7 births are abortions. I mean, that's pretty high. It's very high.
3 out of 7 pregnancies ends up in abortion.
Yes. And how high? That's just
For the sake of, you know, just for the sake of conversation, as if I passed away tomorrow, or when I do pass away, if things keep going in society the way they are, and people say that abortion should not be outlawed, or should, you know, it should not be against the law. Everybody should have a choice. Well, you know, everybody should have a choice, but they should be making the right choice. And what makes this the right choice is if everybody would, you know, consider whether the reincarnation of it. Say, you know, just for the sake of explanation for the Christians that are watching, if there is reincarnation, okay, what happens when we leave this life and we get ready to come back into the next one? There's a 3 in 7 chance that I'm not going to make it back here.
Yep.
You know, that's bad.
That's pretty high chances.
Yeah, and the fact that, you know, if I was to come back and you know, I didn't make it somehow through the birth, you know, through the mother, you know, through birth, at least I wouldn't have been killed.
Yeah.
Okay. And the karma, you know, the repercussion for all these abortions has to come out. It has to be played out sooner or later.
Oh yeah, I think the karma's already being played out in today now. The way the kids have become so violent, and instead of, you know, the violence being, the violence is just spreading because it's like a ripple effect.
Sure.
You know, if it starts out that way, it's just just keep going and going, and the children pick it up, and the adults pick it up, and there's, you know, people getting killed in, you know, just mad rages in your car and
Sure.
stupid things like that.
Another way karma's played out, and there's several ways I think that we're paying for it now, is you haven't had an abortion.
No.
I've never been involved in aborting one of my children, okay? But we are reaping the consequences of these other people aborting their children. How long is God going to put up with it? Really, how long is God going to put up with it? And it's first-degree murder, even the most highly, you know, and this is another thing. How many avatars, great avatars, down through the time, the masters from Christ, Buddha, Dalai Lamas, any, you know, Paracelsus, any master or great avatar down through time in any of their writings, when have they ever said that it's okay to abort your child?
Never.
No.
Well, you know, I say this, okay, pro-choice before conception. After conception, you're involving somebody else.
Yeah.
So why take their choice away?
Yeah.
And so I'm for, you know, choosing things. I'm not against women, you know, not being able to choose stuff, but when it comes to somebody else's choice, you're taking that away.
And we're reaping the consequences for it, although we've never been involved in it. You know, that's one of the reasons I believe, it's one of the reasons for solar flares, hot spots on the sun. The sun's the sun's angry at us.
Yeah.
It is. It's mad.
It probably is.
And
or God's mad, and, you know, the Twin Towers is just a drop in the bucket compared to how many babies die a day in the United States. You know, that's like half the babies. All those people that the whole nation cried over. It is sad. It's very sad that happened. But
twice as many babies as that die every day.
Die a day. And do we cry for them? Does anyone cry for them? No. There's no weeping tears over all these babies that are stuck in buckets. And that's the sad thing.
So getting back to it being legal to kill babies. Everybody says, you know, we don't need another law, okay? But if people aren't making the right choices, if for Joe to walk out of a store and go into the street and shoot Sally in the head, okay, and he planned to do it before he left the store, that's first-degree murder, and he's put on death row for it. He's sentenced to die for it. There's no difference between that. That woman did not have the choice in dying. The baby does not have a choice in dying. And then you can come up with, the feminists can come up with all kinds of excuses and reasons why that should be, and they should have a choice. But the feminists are irresponsible, I think, insofar as they should have a choice, but they should be telling each other, if you don't want a baby, don't
sterilized.
don't get sterilized.
I'm teasing. If you don't want kids and you don't want them, then do something about it.
Don't get pregnant.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing to the sterilization.
I know, but it makes me so mad that I'm like, if you don't want kids and you're just going to keep killing them, then go get sterilized. Because what are you doing this for?
The thing is to be responsible about it.
But if they're using abortion as birth control, how is that?
I'm a palm reader, and I see it consistently.
Yeah.
Women with 3-4 abortions, and some of them will try, you know, when I bring it up, and they're real easy to find in the hand. When I bring it up to them, some of them say they don't know what I'm talking about. A lot of them are proud, like they've fought a battle or been through a war and have there's some kind of accomplishment there. And some women are very sad. And again, we've talked about this before on the show, about what the karmic consequence is for abortion. And if you take a child's life, you have to save a child's life. Doesn't matter how many lives it takes you to do that. You know, you're reaping the consequences of that until you do that. And so the madness goes on. When's it going to stop? Where's it going to stop? Is God going to have to step in and
flush the toilet?
And do a Sodom and Gomorrah on us?
Probably.
Again, someday?
I think I'm just saying from the streets of Missouri, I know from doing these shows that I'm not going to be well liked. Standing out there with a sign, they hate me. The hate was evident.
I know, Aubrey, how do we tell people about it? How do we get the message across without
offending someone?
Well, trying not to offend somebody, but how do we get somebody to listen? How
That's-
do-
yeah, I don't
how does
know.
it happen?
See, that's the thing is, when I was on the streets, I didn't really want to offend anyone, and I don't really care what religion you're from. I don't care if you're Catholic or you're Jew or whatever.
It matters not.
No, it does not matter to me.
Right.
But murder is murder, plain and simple. I don't care if you're whatever. We are born with a conscience.
Well, you're a mother and you have two beautiful children, two beautiful
Yeah.
babies. So I could, you know, I can imagine. I've never given birth, okay,
Yeah.
but I can't really imagine what you see when you look at those little babies, and you hold them in your arms and you feed them, you breastfeed them or whatever, and then you see the films that we show from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock at night, and how that must make you feel. I know I'm to a point where I really can't. It angers me so much to watch them. But how, you know, if we're offensive to people out there, and we anger them, how do we get the message across? You know, I mean, how do we deliver the message? You know, and I had a lady call me that I was really good friends with for a while. You know, and we shared things, and she called me and told me that she literally went off on me.
They don't be fun anymore
Yeah,
because we're doing this.
yeah, told me she would not support me in anything I did in public. Now, what that means, I don't know. She will not publicly support me, but I don't know if she'll support me, you know,
Right.
not publicly. So the whole thing confused me, and she said I was part of some Christian movement to commit her to a death sentence. You know?
That's not what I'm about, I guess.
I know, but I didn't get where she was coming from either. I was really confused, so I kept I kept trying to reach her, and it just didn't work. So and that was a friend of mine. And from what I understand, there's people out there that get together and feminists get together in certain places. You know, they have places that they go and they hang out, and you know, we're not on their best.
No.
We're not on their best like list. Okay, but how? And we've offered to them, I don't know how many times, to come down here and take the feminist position in the studio. They can have a chair next to you. They can have my chair. They can sit in between us, 5, 7 of them,
20,
4 of
whatever.
them. Let the debates begin.
That's right.
Because I haven't heard, to date, I haven't heard one solid explanation from one of them that fits. And I try to be open-minded about everything.
Yeah, so am I.
Okay. I have not heard one
So,
explanation that has any foundation, any substance to it. So, if the feminists don't want us talking about abortion, come on and teach other feminist women how not to have babies, how not to get pregnant, of course, without being sterilized, without taking the organs out, because that puts you in a place, I'm telling you, you really don't want to be. But that's another show. Let them come down here and teach the ovulation process to other feminists or to other women. You know, let them take a part. If they, you know, let them have a choice in another way, not in first-degree murder.
okay.
You know, I appreciate you and Marilyn for all that you're doing. It takes a lot of courage to come down here and face the music and take the position you're taking. And I know that it hasn't set well with people in my close world, even people that are very close to me. And just because of the abortion issue and other things as well, you know. But, you know, I appreciate you all sticking with it.
I guess I didn't realize how much it would affect me until I was on the streets holding a sign saying, you know, hate hurts. They're the sign that, you know, the gays of Missoula put everywhere about how the gays' house got burned down and how hate hurts. It does hurt. And I put a picture of a baby that had been aborted, and it said, hate hurts. It really hurts. It really hurts, obviously. And I cannot tell you how many swear words were thrown at me, how much
Really?
hate, over trying to save a baby. I mean, it's a person. You can't deny that. No matter how much people try to say it's a blob of tissue, it's whatever, it doesn't feel pain. You know, there's so many arguments that can come
When is a baby a baby, by the way? When does a baby start to be a human?
At conception.
Oh, okay. All right, then we get that straight right away.
Yeah.
And
Well, when it already, if you put those Mark Crutcher tapes online, the Life Dynamics on, he talks to some lady that actually has documented research of these people from Japan that have poked needles in these livers of these babies that are like 8, 10 weeks old, just barely there, and they watched their brain waves to see if they could feel pain.
Yeah.
Because the argument is, oh, they cannot feel pain at this age. They're
and
too
how
little.
old was that?
8 and 10 weeks in.
Okay, and so that's right in the abortion range, correct?
Yes, that's the major abortion
Right.
range. Okay, well, they poke these babies' livers with needles to see if their brain changed, their brain waves changed, and they changed. They felt pain.
Sure, and if there's any doubt about what a baby feels, then watch what's the
Silent scream.
the silent
Yes.
scream.
That one
Yeah,
right there will
that-
convince you enough.
Yeah, that's a picture of it.
Yeah, picture of a baby screaming.
Yeah.
It knows it's going to die. It's being ripped apart.
while it's being aborted.
Yes. Well, anyways, the study showed that a baby at 8 to 10 weeks felt the brain waves were more acute with the pain than a baby that was at 15 or 16 weeks. So it's saying it is just so small and so compact that it can feel more pain,
more sensitive.
when it's tinier than when it's bigger. And what happens when a baby is, 14 weeks along and they have to do surgery on it? They put it under amnesia. They gave it anesthetics
Right.
because it can feel pain.
Right.
So the argument that a baby cannot feel pain is just ridiculous.
Okay.
It's just stupid.
Science itself has proved otherwise.
Yes.
Okay. So the fact is, it does feel the pain.
It does feel
The fact
pain.
is that it knows it's being ripped apart
Yep.
and it knows it's being murdered. And how else in everything we've done, and all the things that as many places as there is to go in the issue, on the show, out in the street, we're doing our part the only way we know how.
Yeah. And I guess if people are going to hate us, then
Well, yeah, and if it comes across as we're arrogant, I know myself, and I know you personally.
Yeah.
I know Marilyn personally.
Yeah.
I know that sometimes people get nervous in front of the camera. I know that when somebody's under pressure, they get nervous. But I myself try to be humble. I know
I
that
am trying,
I
yes.
know you try to be humble, and I know Marilyn is just humble in her heart.
yes.
So the
Well, she's-
arrogance that we've been accused of, it's
Self-righteous. No, there's no self-righteous because Marilyn's had an abortion herself.
I know.
So she's coming from, I've been there, okay?
Right.
I know what it's like. I know how it feels. It's not what they say. It's not easy. The emotional side effects outweigh the whole thing by a long run.
And it's not, for a person that isn't in front of the public speaking all the time, it's not an easy subject to approach.
Oh, no.
And the facts are not easy to deliver.
No. Nobody wants to hear it. It's too gory.
How else do you get somebody, some of it has to be shock therapy. Some of it has to be the shock method.
Yeah.
Because I know that a friend of mine had approached a lady, and she a beautiful pregnant girl, and she beautiful because she's pregnant, okay, and we're just talking about that he was very proud that she had decided to keep the baby, and she said, well, hey, there's nothing else I could do. That's the kind of person I am, okay. And then she said, it's not like they didn't try to talk me into an abortion. The doctors, when she went down and she was pregnant, tried to talk her into an abortion.
That's sad.
And she wanted, and she said no, and she said several times they tried to talk her into it after she told them that she was keeping the baby. There's no way that you're going to talk me into it. No way I'm going to decide that. They continued to try to talk her into doing it. Now, what's behind all that? What's behind the medical profession for doing that? When you go into a doctor,
And you trust him.
sure, you trust his opinion.
Of course.
Okay, and doctors are very influential, but I'm not getting why the AMA doctors don't tell both sides of the story. They give abortion information, but they don't give you information on keeping your baby. You know, the pros versus the cons, and can you imagine the karma for an abortionist?
Oh, I know. I would not want to be one. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, what group or what substance is out there that's behind it all? Why is there such a mass acceptance of it? I mean, how have we de-evolved to that point? You know, I try to look at the overall.
Yeah, so do I.
And it's massive, huh?
Yeah, and that's one thing I realized when I was out in the streets of Missoula. Is Missoula is so that way. They hated us. It was like they loved murder. It wasn't like a thing for them. It was just like.
You know, I don't think
that they actually love it,
Aubrey,
but it was
right. I'm giving people
yeah.
the benefit of the doubt by saying that I don't think they know that it's murder, and that's part of our responsibility is to explain to them in a way in which they'll understand that it is murder,
yeah.
and that there is a consequence, and explain the facts to them. And getting back, if we come off to where we offend somebody, then maybe if somebody's offended, maybe they should look into their beliefs a little bit deeper.
Okay.
There's a lot of fence sitters, and it isn't so easy to change somebody that already has a belief, but it's easier to reach the fence sitters that don't take a stand either way.
I can tell you I got probably
They're ambivalent.
flipped off probably like 15, 20 times out there.
Wow.
I thought, I went home and, I mean, this was even for Christy, my stepmother. She was out there with me, and she couldn't even sleep because she was just so hurt by that so many people would be that way.
Right.
That you could stand out there and say, help save the babies, and meanwhile, the parade is going down the street, and they're holding signs, quit butchering the wolves. And you're holding a baby, but they're fine with the wolves. You don't kill the wolves, but the babies, fine, just flush them out, that's fine.
Somebody has told them it's okay, Aubrey. Somebody's telling everybody it's okay.
Probably, yeah. I'm sure it is.
We need to stop, somehow get the people that are saying it's okay and make them responsible somehow. And this whole program is opening up, okay, and we're not going to give up. There's no quit in us. And so when we get down to it, we're gonna have Mark Crutcher on sometime after May 22nd. We'll be doing an interview with Mark Crutcher. Mark Crutcher is from Life Dynamics out of Denton, Texas, and they have a big movement going down there. They do some awesome work down there, and
a lot of research.
Yeah, a lot of investigative research.
Oh yeah, they're very.
And yeah, with the body, you know, and all with doctors selling body parts to one show he was talking about having abortions out in international waters so it can be legal for countries that it's illegal in. It's a business. Killing babies is a business, and we need to somehow make it against the law because people aren't seeing it.
Well, like you said, you want to make someone responsible. It's kind of hard to make a society responsible when society has accepted it so easily.
But the thing is, Aubrey, we can't make the society, but somebody out there, the creator, is going to make us responsible.
Yes, exactly.
Because if you don't disagree with something, if you don't object to something that's wrong, in essence, you're agreeing with it.
Yep, in essence, you're going to be accountable.
You're agreeing with it.
Yeah, of course.
And you were going to say, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I just was saying this society has accepted it, and I think they've even, I think the feminists, the whole row with them going the way they did is, and saying abortion's so, they're so for it, is it's almost like a step up for them, so they can get on their soapbox and say, look, okay, I can get this because it's my body, I can do what I want,
right.
But in essence, the whole abortion industry has not given a step up for women. It's made them step down, because what they do is they mutilate these women, But where are the women's rights groups for these women that have been, totally, they can't have children anymore, they've had botched abortions, they're totally messed up. Where are they then? They're not there. They're only there when you want to say, okay, it's my body, it's my right. But when you're down in the gutter laying there bleeding to death, they walk right on by because they don't want to see that there could be some problems with what they have stood up so much for their whole lives.
I am not in any position, and I've had several of them give me explanations on why they think it's right. I'll admit I don't begin to understand them because I don't think it has any substance. Again, the challenge is out there. If anybody pro-life, pro-choice, anybody wants to come and sit in the studio and enlighten us, because evidently there's some enlightening going on somewhere out there. There are a lot, masses of people feel like they're enlightened, feel like they're making the right choice. Did you read in the New Testament about how Jesus said it was all right for an abortion? No, neither did I.
I must have missed that part.
Yeah.
Must be the part that somebody ripped out of mine.
I've read it 3 times and I didn't get it. I don't know how much you've read about Buddha, but have you ever heard anybody say the Buddha said, oh, no, neither. Paracelsus, none of the Dalai Lama right now, if we had him on the show, will tell you, no, it's not right.
Even the Pope would.
Yeah.
So if you're in that realm too.
In that realm. I don't know about any of the other religions, but we'd welcome them to come out, especially if they're pro-life, to come out and give us a hand anywhere they can.
Or if somebody even has like a situation that they were in, or they had an abortion where something happened wrong, they want to get out there and tell their story and say, look, this is what happened to me. Gosh, please do come down. I know it's probably pretty scary for them, but if their one little story could affect thousands of people.
And remember, if you know it's wrong and you're not saying anything about it, then you're agreeing with it.
Yeah. And also, if you have any feelings of this might be wrong, then definitely look into it before you go through with it. Be pressured into it.
So how about if we do this, Aubrey? How about if we have a live show about once a month on the abortion issue, where viewers can call in and give their opinion? Maybe the ones out there that are disliking what we're doing so bad will be able to have a voice in that way, or even write and do an editorial on it. How's that?
That's fine.
Write the newspaper. If you can't come down to the studio, write your newspaper and tell us what you think. Give us your opinion about the show, maybe a way we can approach it, or the reason why you want us to stop, whatever it is. We're going to work into a live show where we can take phone calls. We're going to try to do that once a month. And thank you for being here with me today.
No problem.
All right. Oh, by the way, that's it. About the line that we're in.
We talk about past and present from basically 94 to next year. We're in a period that, of course, is the end of one millennium and the beginning of the next, which is in the stars.
Okay. It's a 1,000-year cycle.
Basically. Yeah,
Okay.
we're dealing on centuries and millenniums.
And can we talk about how it affects the Earth? How it affects people?
Sure. If that's something you want to get into, that's not something I'm into, but you go where you want to go. Well, the reason I didn't have the hill today, I had a couple things to do. And then also,
everybody asks where Matthew was.
just getting a few things together and getting ready to come over here and everything. It was like I didn't feel like coming straight over here from down there, so.
Welcome to Metaphysical Concepts. My name is David Maines, and we appreciate your viewership and being here with us one more night. Tonight's guest is Matthew.
Hey, Dave?
Pardon me?
You'll have to do, I can't get the, you have to put the mic up just a little bit higher. It's kind of high.
It's actually
blocking the sound.
It's actually too high. Welcome to Metaphysical Concepts. Thank you for putting up with my crooked nose one more night.
Actually, you look good on camera.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know how to count any higher than that, Frank. I only graduated the 7th grade.
Go again.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
One more time.
1, 2, 3. Hey, let me do it the right way, Frank. No, Frank, that wasn't good. Let's try it one more time. We have Matthew Gerwan.
Yeah.
Okay, now something wasn't right, someone wasn't completely right about that. It's Gerwan, right?
No, that's right. Gerwan.
We have Matthew Gerwan here with us tonight, Frank, and we're going to talk metaphysics and the stars. We're going to bring out all kinds of information and to enlighten us and our viewers. Frank, what are you doing, Frank?
Dave, what I'm getting here is that you're just talking a little bit too soft. You know, it's
Okay,
just like, for
Frank,
somebody who went good with her, the mic's not high enough.
Well, Frank, Aubrey wore me out, man.
That's all right.
It's all right.
Okay, go ahead, just count.
Hang on a minute, man.
Are you gonna do this camera too, or are you gonna do one camera on this?
Well, I'm on him when he starts, and then I'm gonna go to double, then I'll switch this one back.
Oh, this is set for both of us?
Yeah, that's separate,
Okay.
then I might not change that around, I might get the side.
Try this,
shot
Frank.
on.
Okay.
Frank, I think we might have it this time, because I think
Yeah,
it's
that's
going.
right.
And if it is going, Frank, you have so
Yeah,
much,
good.
you have
That's
so
good.
much light on my nose, Frank. Frank, can I get the powder girl in here? Frank, send the powder girl in.
My forehead's pretty shiny. There you go.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks.
Thank just up a little bit more, up a little bit more, up a little bit more, just a little bit more. Now, Frank, straighten my nose out.
You just sit like that with your legs like that?
No, actually, I do this a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
just
kinda
because,
move.
just because of the body, you know. And sometimes I lay back, and a lot of times
I guess this looks better, a little more
a lot
casual.
of times I'll prop up like this, and the whole interaction, if you have something.
So you just change then,
Yeah.
rather than having your leg fall asleep in this position
It's
here.
so.
Peculiarities and a lot of fascinating things about the Gregorian calendar and how it was started and why, but that's a whole nother story.
Okay. All right.
But,
Just trying to keep the numbers together for
yeah,
our guests.
yeah, we're trying to keep it simple.
Sure.
So we have 1996 and 1997. We have Hayakataki show up,
Sure.
late March, early April.
Right.
Exactly a year later, in 1997, we have Hail Bob
Bob.
show, and its peak brightness is late March and early April.
Uh-huh.
But it gets better.
Okay.
Both comets, exactly a year apart, end up in the exact same place in the sky on April 10th or 11th. I believe it's April 10th.
Really?
Now that is
Where,
amazing.
now I gotta ask you, where is that place in the sky they meet? Is that significant?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
And we have it right here, and it's this constellation right here, Perseus, and that's where it ended up. And the significance of Perseus, the breaker, you were asking about Revelation in the Bible.
Sure.
Okay, in the book of Micah, we have in the 2nd chapter, it says, the breaker shall come up before them, and the Lord at the head of them, and they shall come, they have passed through the gate. And so this is a prophecy of a period of time. And but both comets, exactly a year apart, ended up in this constellation, which that alone, regardless of everything else, proves that the stars and the signs and the stars and planets are not
Accidental.
They're not
It's
accidental.
not, nothing is coincidental out
Exactly.
there. Everything's interrelated, I take it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a balance to all out there. So does it matter where they ended up in Perseus, or where they ended up inside of Perseus, or just
Sure.
the fact that they're in Perseus?
Sure. No, it is significant because Perseus represents many things in the sign of Aries.
It's in the sign of Aries.
Yes, and it
Okay.
represents the consummation of the battle. It represents the triumph of good over evil. It represents many things.
The triumph of good over evil.
Yes.
Huh.
And the star that both comets went in conjunction with at that period of time was called Algol. And the
Okay.
star Algol, which is this one right here. Algol basically means,
And that would be this one right here.
that's right.
Okay.
It is the head of Satan, the head of the evil one, the head of Medusa. And as you can see, it's chopped off.
Yes.
So it means it's victory, and he's moving swiftly with wings on his heels.
So is this the beginning of the victory? Is this when the battle starts, or does it actually claim a victory at that time?
Well, I don't know. We see the sign, you know.
Right.
Now, if we had victory, I think, you know, right now.
The battle seems like the battle's still going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and there's signs. So
Yeah.
there's signs of what signs? Signs of the times to come.
Exactly.
Okay, so
That's one thing we find is, you know, sometimes people think, well, when you see the exact alignment or eclipse or comet, that something's happening right at that time on Earth. But these are signs of a period of time. And so we see these two comets come in, 1996 and 1997, but we also have two eclipses of the moon.
at that
and-
time, or
No, not at the same, well, one of them was.
okay,
I'll get to that.
all right.
The first eclipse was in 1996, in early September, and there's that Tishri thing again, the time of Tishri. And the eclipse of the moon was next to Saturn, which is an interesting planet to be sitting next to Pisces. It's in I say sitting next to Pisces. It's in Pisces. So we have an eclipse of the moon in Pisces, which is the 7th sign of the zodiac, next to Saturn.
Okay.
And now Saturn is significant, and Saturn has a peculiar relationship to the moon, because the moon cycle is 29 and a half days, and the cycle of the planet Saturn is 29 and a half years. So we look at that and we say, well, obviously there's some kind of a relationship there. And of course, both of them are measurements of time. We see the moon being a measurement of time, you know, every month, but also Saturn itself was associated with time because of its long cycle, 29 and a half years. So it being the sign of time. And here it's in Pisces, which is the 7th sign of the zodiac, which in scriptures is the sign of Israel and God's people. Here again, Usher's chronology, year 6000, year 6001. Well, that was significant, and of course, a remarkable thing about that eclipse, that same eclipse took place exactly a year later in September 97 for the people in Europe, in the Middle East. As it took place, well, North America saw it, 96, September. Right. September of 97, they saw the exact same eclipse
On the other side of the world.
in Europe and Middle East, yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
So nobody missed it.
No.
The sign was there for everybody.
That's right. And then we had the second eclipse in 1997, which, now this is remarkable. When we go to Rome, the day of Mars in Rome was March 23rd. That one day out of 365 days a year. Okay? Well, it just so happens that on March 23rd, Comet Hale-Bopp came to its closest point to the Earth. Okay?
What does Mars mean to that?
Well, I'm going to get to that.
All right.
Okay, over in the west, northwest, we've got Comet Hale-Bopp, March 23rd, the day of Mars,
Right.
closest to the Earth.
Right.
Over in the east, we have Mars at opposition, which is its closest point to the Earth, sitting next to the moon eclipsing in Virgo. On the day of Mars.
On the day of Mars.
Yeah.
What does Mars actually stand for?
Well,
What is the day of Mars? What's the significance of that?
well, in Rome, that was when they honored Mars, which was the supreme deity of Rome. Okay. That was, they had great temples to it. Romulus was, you know, their leaders were associated with Mars. And of course, we generally know Mars, we look at the significance of it as a sign, as the sign of war, you know. And of course, Mars has come into a lot of significance over the past few years because of men who have done excellent work like Richard Hoagland.
Right, yes.
You know, the monuments of Mars.
We're trying to get him on the show, by the way.
Yeah, well, he would be a great guest to have on. He's done some excellent work. And so here we have on the night of Mars, March 23rd, we have the sign of Mars, the moon eclipsing, and by the way, the moon eclipsing looks like Mars. It turns red with a small white cap. It's like 95% eclipsed, just like Mars with the white snow cap and red in Virgo, which is the sign of the beginning. That's the beginning of the zodiac, and the end of the zodiac is Leo.
So
it's a sign of beginning.
And this is on March 23rd.
March 23rd.
What year?
1997.
1997.
Yep.
Just when Hale-Bopp was its closest point to the Earth.
Yes.
So all these together, we're talking about Mars, which is in Greek mythology is the god of war, isn't it?
Yep.
God of battle.
Yep.
In Rome, I imagine it would stand for the warrior.
Yep. Hercules, yeah.
Yeah.
In Greek. Yeah.
And so, and Virgo over here saying that it's the beginning.
Yep.
Okay, so 1997, what, looking back, do we see any significant events at that point on Earth? Can we look back and call forth any significant, was there anything happening on Earth right at that time that would correspond with it?
Well, I don't know, but if we look at the general time period, obviously, lately we've seen, you know, a lot of war.
Yeah.
You know, we've heard a lot about war. We've seen a lot of talk about war. We've seen a lot of battle and war.
We've seen a lot of
yeah.
pretty, and to look at the whole scope of it, the Afghanistan thing, the Twin Towers, there's bombs going off right now. The kids going into school and shooting people. You know, there's a cycle here that's just it's getting out of hand and it's getting kind of scary.
Yeah.
There's some that say we're in the beginning of another world war. You know, we look at the papers and we read the papers for whatever that's worth to an individual nowadays, with who's controlling the media, and we see that the stock market's not doing well.
Mm-hmm.
So, since that time right there in 1996, 1997, what has that evolved to insofar as alignments or the constellations are concerned?
Well, what we've seen now, this is an extensive topic. We talked earlier, we talked about the Gregorian calendar and the peculiarities about the Gregorian calendar. Well, the Gregorian calendar...
There seems like a deception in there somewhere.
Yeah, the Gregorian calendar is actually an Egyptian calendar.
Really?
And when we get into the Egyptian calendar, we get into Egypt and some of the secret societies and mystery schools and religions and stuff like that. We talk about Egypt. Well, why was the Gregorian calendar set at Egypt? Well, it just so happens that on midnight, year 2000, January 1st, the star Sirius, the star of Egypt, was precisely over the Great Pyramid.
Is that right?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yes.
That just gave me chills. Now, when we talk about planets, of course, you know, when we talk about these things, the first thing the listener, one of the first things that come to is astrology. Okay, we're not talking about astrology. We're talking about alignment of the planets in conjunction with prophecy, in conjunction with calendars that have been made and prophesied from some very awesome individuals thousands of years ago. Where does it put us in the last couple years? I know you're going to get to this. A couple times I see I'm getting in here in the middle of your explanation.
No, you're doing fine.
But we're going to work it out. What's happened in the last couple years, what's going on right now, and what's happening in the short period to come. We left off at the year 2001, Sirius.
Okay. Sirius. Sirius is a remarkable star. It's setting in the west right now as we speak. Sirius figures significantly in Egypt. It figures significantly in the symbology and the alignments and rituals of our age and the people involved, the movers and shakers, the people behind the scenes. Sirius in Egypt is the symbol of Isis, which is the Queen of Heaven.
Goddess.
Yeah, exactly. And many of the ancient religions recognize the Queen of Heaven, and numerous religions. But specifically in Egypt, it's Isis. And here we have, now, the Gregorian calendar at the time, the reckonings they had, and the astronomers they had better calendars. They had more accurate calendars. Here we're dealing with the calendar of the past few centuries with leap years, with calculations that make no sense at all. And there was a considerable amount of debate about that at the time. Why they did not choose a better calendar.
So that's the Gregorian
calendar put in effect by Pope Gregory. And the reason this calendar was set, when you just do basic research, which Hoagland and Mike Barra have done an excellent job on Richard Hoagland's website, you can come to no other conclusion that the star Sirius being exactly directly over the Great Pyramid, midnight January 1st, was the only criteria for it. And then so you get into, what does the east and west represent in Egypt? Why is Egypt such a fundamental part of the people who are involved in that? And why is Egypt such a fundamental part of what's going on today? And I can reference no other book myself, but other than the Holy Bible in Isaiah chapter 30, where God says, "Woe unto those that go down into Egypt, and they ask not at my mouth to strengthen themselves, and to strengthen themselves in the shadow of Egypt, and to trust in the staff of Pharaoh." So now, what does that mean, going down into Egypt? Well, when we look at the term up and down biblically and in the ancient scriptures,
Going to.
it's talking about time travel, up and down through time.
Okay.
Well, now we're talking about time travel. Well, that's a pretty cosmic metaphysical concept of time travel.
That's very evolved.
So then we got to wonder, well, is there beings that are time traveling?
Well, that's actually, there are actually several that I know of that are claiming to do that, and we're hoping to have one on the show here sometime soon to come up from Arizona. Now, woe to those
that go down into Egypt. Yeah.
And what does going down mean? Go down?
Well, here's an interesting thing. Okay. The world is laid out north, south, east, and west. Well, in Egypt, the west is the place of the dead. Okay. Here we have a significant alignment of the star Sirius, and we're dealing with east and west. Apparently, symbolically, the Gregorian calendar was set up to signify that we were passing a transition from life to death, east to west, and the star Sirius being the marker of that. But this gets even more interesting. When we look at the east and west relationship, we look here in the western United States, that the west ends right at the Pacific Ocean.
Right.
And here, there's this relationship that the west being the place of the dead. And here we have this relation to, now we're getting into the order of the quest and the secret societies that which established in America and Washington, D.C., recognizing the significance of the continent of the United States,
Right.
being the end of the West,
Right.
and the past couple centuries, which is, a small period of time,
Actually, yeah.
looking at this continent being the place of the Egyptian place of the dead. That's pretty wild.
This continent or just part of it?
Well, this continent being, they even got into concepts of Atlantis and the New Atlantis, America being the
New Atlantis.
Atlantis or the New Atlantis, and the order of the quest,
Atlantis risen.
establishing Atlantis exactly risen. And what does that mean? Risen through time.
Right.
So now you have connections.
Risen through evolution.
Yeah, well, yeah, evolution is a term you could use, where you have time connections up and down, east and west. And it's got, you know, it's getting into.
So yeah, so when you actually, when the first thing that came to me, when you said, well, the West being in the continent, this being the last place in the West, being the land of the dead, or being the direction.
The place of the dead.
The place of the dead. Geez, there's a couple of things that come to mind. First of all, the evolution of our society, the air we breathe, the water we drink, the fluoridated water we drink. A lot of things that are going on in our society today. Abortion, the fact that it's illegal and so many babies are dying. And could it be symbolic not just of a physical death, but of a spiritual death? And
I personally think you hit the nail right on the head.
And what's actually behind it all? Behind it all is the state of wellness, or the lack thereof, in our country. That the spirit vibrates. People vibrate at a certain frequency, and if your physical isn't doing well, your spirit is not going to. Your spirit is only going to do it, or your soul is only going to do as well as the physical. So when we look,
it's all interrelated.
Yeah, and so when we look at it like that, is it evolution happening? I'm sure it is for individuals, for few individuals, okay, that can rise above the water we're drinking, the food we're eating, by the way, that is they pump full of hormones.
Yep.
They
genetically modified organisms.
Yeah, genetically modified, mutate.
Yeah.
The air we breathe. Why in the year 2002, when we're sending spaceships to Mars,
Yep.
when we're sending other space craft past Mars, why are we stuck using fossil fuel vehicles? Why is that? I'm not getting it. Okay, why are we breathing polluted air? Why is it okay? Why are they telling us it's okay to breathe polluted air when it's not okay? Okay, they're saying it's okay. It's not okay. Why are we drinking the water? Why is there so much pollution? Why are they genetically altering our food? Why are we eating hormones? Why are we eating pesticide-filled food? All these things. I kind of agree with you.
Yeah. Well, and everything you illustrated there is illustrating, what does that mean, the place of the dead?
Right.
What does that mean when you go to a place down in time, from the place up in time centuries ago, when they saw, the prophets and the seers saw a place in time down where we are, that it was called the place of death and hell, and 1,000 other names in ancient cultures.
Right.
And what did that mean to go down into Egypt, when Egypt saw down in time the place of death?
Right.
And here we are, like you point out, with all this modern technology, and supposedly we're advanced civilization, and yet we see desolation all around. And not just physical, but we see spiritual desolation.
Yes, but it's so subtle.
Yeah.
It's so subtle as to let us believe it's okay.
Yep.
Now, I can't knock the Constitution of the United States. I can't knock the Declaration of Independence. I can't knock any of those, what was put inside those documents when they were written, it's almost as if it was, when you read it, you think, when is the last time any of our viewers, switch your camera, Frank. When's the last time any of our viewers, I wonder, or anybody out there has read the Declaration of Independence or the Bill of Rights or the Constitution? And to put that, when it was put together, it was very beautiful. If you read those and you look inside of them and you walk out your front door today, are we living it? Are those documents actually happening in our lives today?
Mm-hmm. Well, you've brought up a very important topic that America's faced with today, and that is we've come a long way in a short time. Here we had our founding fathers who fought and died for principles of truth, justice, and liberty, and you brought up the point that it's so subtle. And in the scriptures, we see, you brought up Revelation earlier, we see that at a time when the people worshiped the beast and his image. Mm-hmm. Now what does that mean? It means that there's an image that they worship, and there's no substance behind it. Mm-hmm. And that imagery can be many things. It can have many slogans. And it's a sad fact of America that terms like truth, justice, and liberty have become slogans, empty slogans. And the prophecy of the desolate spot and time in this place in the world, when they would worship the beast and his image, I personally believe we're in that time. We've been there for quite a while. And one aspect we see of this in the scriptures is a mouth speaking great things. Yeah. And we see, a part of 20th century culture, and the 20th century has come to a close. How much of it has been images and words? A mouth speaking great things.
Words aren't the substance.
Yeah.
Actions are the substance.
Yeah.
What are we doing to get away from the things that are harming us? What are we doing as individuals to get away from the things that are harming us? That's the point. We can't change this country. We might not be able to change the world, but I can help you. You can help me. The people that want to change, the change is available to them.
Yep.
The people that don't want to be involved in it is available to them. I'm sorry. I'm so passionate about that.
Well, don't be sorry. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, getting back to prophecy, can we jump back to the constellations for right now?
Sure.
And let's, where are we at in the constellations right now?
Well, everything we've talked about is a good lead up to what's happening right now. We have a planetary grouping in the west. Uh-huh. North, south, east, and west is basically a grid for not only the zodiac and the signs of the zodiac, but also, for example, in the Bible, the tribes of Israel. Uh-huh. To bring it closer to home, the American Indians recognize the significance of north, south, east, and west.
Hopi prophecy, is that what
exactly.
you're talking about?
Yeah, that kind of thing. Uh-huh. So in north, south, east, and west, there are four main constellations zodiacal signs, because there's 12 main signs and there's 36 sub-signs, which are called deacons, which makes a total of 48 signs in the heavens. I say 48 original signs. Now, there's a couple, 2 or 3 new ones that were added just the past 2 or 3 centuries. And that gets back to the whole thing of the establishing of America and the order of the quest. And one of the new constellations is called Columba.
Explain that to us.
Well, Columba is a new sign that is a part of that Sirius crossing on January 1st, 2000. That is a new sign that's supposed to signify a ship going from life to death or death to life. And that was, I forget who was involved in establishing that constellation, but you know, I go by the original zodiac going back centuries and thousands of years.
Okay, so is it signifying death or is it signifying life? From what I
Well, it appears that the people involved in it, in Isaiah chapter 28, God speaks of those who make a covenant with death and make an agreement with hell. And that's a pretty heavy concept.
Oh yeah.
But those that do that, basically, they set up a covenant and an agreement and are overtaken by it.
So they end up losing the battle.
Yeah.
Yeah, they end up losing in the end.
Yeah.
Imagine
Yeah.
that. Now, okay, when you first started bringing it up, what hit me was in order to live, biblical again, in order to live, you must die.
Exactly.
And
he that saves his life shall lose it, and he that loses his life shall find it.
Right, and that would signify the death of the human carnal, and life again in the spirit.
Exactly.
And
the dichotomy there, the metaphysical dichotomy of that, is to be spiritually alive in this world, is to be painfully aware of what this place is, which is death and hell.
Right.
Now that sounds dramatic and that sounds heavy to people, but if you stand up for what's right, and if you stand up for God's kingdom, you know, you're going to see that, and you're going to be painfully aware
you know
of
by your
those
fruits.
realities. Exactly.
You're known by your fruits.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, where are we at today? We've talked about everything up till right now. Now, this is what it seems like to me, just from the brief education I've gotten from you, is to put it all together to this point. It seems like there's been signs. We've had certain signs, and they've been in such a place in such a way, whereas to signify certain things. So we're actually in the middle, or we're at the, actually not in the middle, but at the beginnings of these signs, and the signs have been war. You know, when we get back to prophecy, famines. You know, how many diseases do we have in the world today? You know, nobody really says anything about what's happening over in Africa. Our media has kept us shut off from a large part of the world and let us know what they want us to know. They haven't told us that 200,000 people a day are dying over in Africa of disease and starvation. They haven't told us.
They're digging up old graves and burying them 4 deep.
Yeah, oh, jeez. And all the details that go along with that. Can you imagine 200,000 people a day dying? There's plenty of gory details to that one. The genocides that have happened over from Europe to Afghanistan to to Turkey, Iran, Iraq. So we see all these things coming up. We're at the beginning of it seems, of world madness. So, what do we have to look forward to?
Well, you gave a very accurate lead up to the next sign I'm going to talk about, which is happening right now.
Okay.
And it's in the west. And I was speaking about the north, south, east, and west, and the significance of that. Each out of the 12 zodiac signs, there's 4 main signs. And those 4 main signs are Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius, and Taurus. And each one of those main signs, there's a direction associated with it.
Signifies a direction.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, right now in the west, as we speak, there's a planetary grouping in the direction of Taurus in Taurus. And that probably takes centuries for that to happen. And Taurus is the sign of the last day, which is the last 1,000 years. Because in the scriptures, Peter admonishes us, be not ignorant of this one thing. One day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as one day. God is not slack concerning his promise. And what is his promise? That he will return. And so here we have the sign of the day of the Lord, which is the bull in full fury, which signifies judgment. Now it's, it does not give me any joy to report that to your viewers or to yourself, that that's what the sign is.
Well, let's get real.
Yeah, let's get real. And you certainly have talked about that on this show, the way things look. And so what does that mean? It means, like you pointed out earlier, individually, we need to get metaphysical, which means to look within, you know.
And it may seem, prophetically speaking, like gloom and doom. But there's also promises, biblically, that go along with that.
Yep.
He who has ears to hear, let him hear. I see, let him see. Harden not your heart. Several things, you know, and God promises to watch out for his children.
Yep.
Okay, and bring his children home.
Yep.
And so, as individuals, if there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know.
Well, I appreciate that.
If there's
yeah.
anything this program or anybody at this program can do to help anybody out there, please let us know. By the way, the phone number is 728-0675. And you can ask Matthew any questions at that number that you might have for a future show, and we'd like to have you back. But getting back to it, that's where we're at today. Where the sign right now is in the west. It's in Taurus. Bingo. Peter told us about it. Where are we going in the next year?
Well, there's another significant event taking place, and that has to do with Mars. Now, we talked a little bit about Mars and what Mars symbolizes. In the ancient scriptures, I'm talking about Isaiah and Amos and the prophets of the Bible, as well as the Magi who found the Lord, and many of the other ancient cultures, Chinese, it's endless. The Celtic people. There was two primary planets that figured in prophecy, and that was Saturn and Mars. If you wanted to pick one, I would say Mars is the most significant. Well, it just so happens that Mars, all the planets move in and out. They move closer to the Earth, they move away. The moon does this as well.
Oscillate?
Yeah, and it's called opposition when they come in close, and the moon, it's perihelion, and apogee and perigee for the moon. But the opposition of Mars is coming in next year. Now, the oppositions vary in closeness to the Earth. Well, it just so happens next year, Mars is coming in closest to the Earth at least 700 years. That was as far back as I went.
Really?
I didn't have my book handy, it's elsewhere, but a couple of weeks ago I thumbed through it, and it has the oppositions for the past 2,000 years. And I got 700 years back, and there's not been anything as close as the opposition next year. Opposition
of Mars.
Which is its closest point to the Earth.
Now, isn't next year figured out to be, didn't Zacharias Sessions say that Planet X, or the 12th planet, is going to be on us here next year,
well,
sometime soon?
Zacharias Sitchin has apparently, and I can't verify that, but apparently he has made unofficial statements, because apparently there is a conspiracy to keep the knowledge of the Planet X situation away from people.
The Anunnaki and the Nephilim.
Exactly, yes. and Mark Hazelwood has written a book, 2003, which has come out recently, about Planet X, and he claims that Planet X is going to be here. I believe it's May or somewhere around the middle of next year. And one of the interesting things he brings out is that the 2013 Mayan calendar is off, and that that on the Mayan calendar next year is actually the year 2013.
Huh. So, and the Mayans were very accurate.
Yeah.
Very accurate in their prediction of prophecy.
Sure.
From their own extinction to all future events. So, can I ask you to get back to the Mars being closest to this planet? Since you went back 600 or 700 years, and you can't find any place where it's been that close in the past 700 years, you don't know when it's been this close. So, we don't have anything to look back in history to say, yeah, last time Mars was this close, this is what happened. So it's actually a very unpredictable situation.
Well, you know, then you get into the Immanuel Velikovsky scenario. Immanuel Velikovsky was a contemporary and a friend of Albert Einstein. He wrote a book in 1950, which was his first book, called Worlds in Collision. And this was a radical departure from the current cosmology and scientific data and scientific opinion of the time.
Which was the feel-good opinion, I imagine.
Yeah, it was the,
warm
you
and
know, yeah, the warm and fuzzy, everything's meaningless balls of gas and energy, nothing has any meaning, and that kind of stuff.
And we know, but we really know, but we're not going to tell you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So his book, which came out in 1950, basically was quite radical, and it really shook the scientific world, because what he postulated was that the planets and comets and various things have dramatic effects on the Earth. And he even postulated that that Mars would come so close to the Earth that it would affect the Earth. He also postulated that comets, one comet came so close to the Earth, and the two epochs that he talks about in there is 700 BC, and I forget what the other time is, but it's not far from there, which would be 2,700 years ago. He postulates that, for example, catastrophes like the Great Flood of Noah, that at one point in history a comet came so close to the Earth that it pulled the oceans up 1,500 miles into space and brought them back down to the Earth. Now, catastrophes of that magnitude would be, you know, dramatic to say the least. And he postulates that there are periods of time that, for example, Mars, when it gets, it'll go out of its normal orbit and actually come so close to the Earth that it'll affect the Earth in the same fashion.
So you know, we've had several recent prophecies about Earth changes.
Yeah.
We've had so-called seers or enlightened people actually give us maps of the new Earth. You know, there's 6 or 7 that I know about there, and 3 of them are relatively the same. And do you want to comment anything on that? Do you have any comment on that?
Well, as far as the Earth changes, you know, there's been a lot of talk about that the past few years. I know a lot of the viewers, probably some of them listen to Art Bell. He has a lot on that. You know, and the Bible obviously talks a lot about that. You know, in Isaiah, God says the earth will reel to and fro like a drunkard. There's even a prophecy which I think could relate directly to the Twin Towers in Washington, in New York, where it says the day of slaughter when the towers fall. And that could have been a prophetic event related to what prophetically was called the day of slaughter, which could mean many things to people. It could mean World War III. It could mean dramatic earth changes. We know that the weather patterns since 1995, 96 have been just totally erratic. You know, here in Montana, for example,
very bizarre.
Yeah, it's you know, we're seeing erratic weather patterns. For example, the sunspot cycle is totally out of course. We're in solar cycle 23, which was supposed to peak out in the middle of the year 2000, and the peak is still going on right now. That's unprecedented.
So we, you know, and there's so many things
Yep.
And so many practices by the people that are in charge. Let the scientists see what they can do with our ozone. Let's bounce some electromagnetic waves off of our ozone and you know, HARP.
Yeah.
And all these other things, and nobody really knows what's going to happen.
Well, you know, there's another side of prophecy that I like that you brought up earlier, and that is, you know, there's plenty of doom and gloom, but there's a lot of prophecy that prophesies of another time too. When those who are blind shall see, when the deaf shall hear, when the stumbling blocks will be taken out of the way of the people.
New Jerusalem.
Yeah, exactly, the New Jerusalem. And
Some prophesy that this area right here is actually the New Jerusalem, from down past Darby up through into Alberta.
mm-hmm.
And all prophecies that I know of say locally here, this is going to be great. We're going to be great through here.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, it just reminds me of a prophecy in the scriptures where God says a number of times, in this mountain, and we know Montana means mountain.
Yes.
And so that could be directly related to Montana. I don't know.
So it isn't so much gloom and doom if it's
No.
reality. Okay. You've been very informative. And I look forward to having you on the show again. I can tell that inside you, Matthew, there's more that you can talk about. And so what I'd like to do is invite you back again. Let me ask you, are you finished? Was Mars coming closest it's ever been? Is that the
That pretty much finishes up the signs.
last in the cycle?
Yep, yep.
Okay. If you find any more, if you discover anything else, I would appreciate you come back and let us know.
Okay.
And to get back to gloom and doom, it's not gloom and doom if it's reality. That's reality. Gloom and doom is facing reality with no hope. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
There is hope.
Yep.
A personal evolution is the hope. You know, we can talk metaphysics, we can talk Christianity, we can talk about Jesus, but what are we really doing? How does it all play out in our lives?
Mm-hmm.
And how by what we do, how are other people affected?
Well, you know, we've been talking about death and life, and the point you're making is the point the Lord makes in the book of James, and that is that faith without works is dead.
Yes.
So what does that mean? That means we get about doing what's right. It's just that simple.
It's personal evolution.
Exactly.
And you can't help it. You can't help it. It passes on to other people.
Yep.
And thank you, Matthew, for being
Thank
on
you.
the show today.
Pleasure.
All right, and we thank you for being with us for another evening. Look forward to seeing you next week. Again, the phone number to catch us here at Metaphysical Concepts is 728-0675. Thank you.
You're being wrong. That you're